Hey, welcome everybody. I quickly threw a webinar together, or a quick video together, with regards to the statement that was made by Iopsa, so we can just go through it step by step, and so you can get a clear indication as to, you know, what the meaning or the objective behind the statement was, and let's get into the in-depth side of the statement. Just take note that we're just trying to get this information out as quick as possible so you guys can get relaxed and get moving forward. We will have on Monday a question and answer session during the Tech Talks, where we'll be there and try and answer all your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to switch off the webcam as usual, and then we're going to jump down into the presentations. Enjoy the session, guys. Let's just make sure I've got the right screen going. There we go, and let's fire away. Quickly switch off my webcam, yeah. Great, so as you know, communication went out today, and it was all about, we were talking specifically about the essential services. So a government gazette regulations came out, and we are fully aware of the amount of false and miscommunications out there. And Iopsa and PRLB stance is clear in that we will not communicate other than what is verified from a credible source. Whatever's flying on the WhatsApp groups or around on whatever it is, and if you want an opinion from PRLB Iopsa, we will not give an opinion until we have verified from a credible source about the information. So as I've advocated on numerous occasions, guys, do not listen to the chatter, take it in, but don't put your whole heart into it until such time as it's verified from PRLB. And if you want to, drop us a line and ask if this is validated or not, please. What's more important is that PRLB's stance is in line with these regulations, because they're government regulations. They're clear, they're set out in respect to the essential services. And at any point in time, let's be clear, that the minister can change these regulations. And if so, we'll be on top of it and we will communicate it accordingly. But the point here is, again, guys, is that it's the gazetted regulations and we follow the regulations. So the Minister, as I said, of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, I don't know why it's sitting there, but let's just leave it. In Section 3 of the Disaster Management Act, and Section 3 of the Act says that she has the right to add regulations to, in this case, she has the right to, in consultation with the Cabinet Ministers, made the gazetted regulations to this to deal with the spread of the coronavirus. And in this case, there is the act, right, on the government gazette, on the government's official channels, and there are the regulations that talk about the amendments, if you want for a better word, to the act that talks about the COVID spread. So again, we are following the government regulations. So despite the necessity, the government regulations and measures will undoubtedly place pressure on each of us in the business. We are clear about that, guys. We know that, and we're sitting there and saying, what is going to happen? But there's a bigger picture at play, guys, and this is it. It's all about flattening this curve. Now, I'm not going to go into any depth about this. I'm sure you've had enough information about this specific things. So without not wasting any further time on this specific graph or whatever it is, but the key is the measures are put in place to lock us down so we can get this curve of the number of people that are infected, so our healthcare can carry the load that is coming forward. So the following are extracts from the regulations, guys, and I'm going to repeat it. It is the extracts from the gazetted regulations. If you wish to refer, you must refer to the full regulations, which I pointed out here. There's the full regulations. What we did, guys, is that we've extracted only the pertinent ones that we felt that was to get that information across. So let's go in. They have a definition, and it's important to understand the definitions because throughout the document they talk about specific things. So essential services means the services as defined in section 217 of the Labor Relations Act and designated in terms of section 71A of the Labor Relations Act, blah, blah, and listed, which is the more important thing there, is in paragraph B of paragraph D of Annexure B within the regulations I'm talking about. So I'm just going to quickly jump down to Annexure B, categories of essential goods and services during lockdown regulations. So I'm going to agreed. Category of essential goods and services during the lockdown regulation 11A. Services, categories of essential services will be confined to the following services. Now they list all of them, guys, but I didn't pull them all out because I only looked for the relevant ones. Electricity, water, gas fuel production, supply, and maintenance. Further, cleaning, sanitation, sewerage, waste. 24. Production, manufacturing, supply, logistics, support, maintenance, critical, and repair in relation to the rendering of essential services. We'll get to that a little bit later again, but yeah, in essence, it's saying that to support this, the essential services, we need some sort of support process. In other words, our merchants and suppliers. And then, of course, transport services for persons rendering essential services and goods and transportation of patients. We'll get again a little bit later. So further definitions. Head of an institute means the accounting. So it means you as a boss. An institute is any public or private institute that engages or in the supply of distribution of essential goods or services, in the AKA, you as a plumbing business, and the head of that institute is, in this case, the CEO, or in the case of a private institute, or the owner, or whoever, not whoever's in charge, it's senior in charge, chief executive officer, or a private institute. If it's bigger, that delegation, that function can be delegated. So if you have a massive plumbing company, that function or a supply chain, that function can be delegated downwards to the appropriate people. And the reason why this is important, we're going to delve on, which is the most important, guys, what you're looking for is this permit. We're going to get into that a little bit later because it becomes this head of institution, and the institution becomes relevant to this permit when we get to that point. So let's quickly look at let's go a little bit more deeper into the regulations. Restrictions of movements of persons and goods. For the period of lockdown, every person is confined to his or her place unless strictly for the purpose of performing an essential services. There we go. All businesses and other entities shall cease operations during the lockdown, save for any business or entity involved in the manufacturing, supply, or provision of essential goods or services. Right, there we go. Retail shops and for those the shops and the supply chain to us, retail shops and shopping malls must be closed except where essential goods are sold, and on no condition that the person in control of the store must place in controls to ensure that the consumer keep a distance of at least 1 square meter for each other, and that all directions in respect of the hygiene conditions and exposure of persons to COVID-19 are adhered to. Now, we know that some of the retail stores are coming online and they put their own checks and balances in place, but this is the regulation, guys. I know they're going over and beyond that, which is great and it's good, but this is what the regulation states. Right, the head of the institute, remember I spoke earlier on, the head of the institute, the CEO, the owner, whoever it, must determine the essential services to be performed by he or her institutions, and must determine the essential staff who will perform these services. So it's basically putting the responsibility on the CEO or the owner of the business, saying these are the services that I deem is essential. So in the case of construction, sorry guys, and in the built environment with respect to plumbing, guys, unfortunately, that is not an essential service with respect to plumbing. It's the services and the maintenance and the emergency services with respect to plumbing. So sorry about that, guys. So don't make a call that you think that you are a plumber and you're an essential service, but you work in construction. You, as the CEO or the owner, need to determine that specific what you deemed an essential services. And don't get me wrong, you'll see later, you'll be held accountable if you go beyond that. So persons performing essential services as determined in sub-regulation 2, that was the one above. We go, look, there we go. Head of institutions performed in a student institution, right, must duly designate in writing by the head of the institute on a form that corresponds subsequently with Form 1 Annexure C. We'll talk about that. That's that form, yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit later because, again, that's the permit that we are looking for. All places or premises provided in Annexure D, you guys can go read that. It's not really that important with regards to essential services. Must be closed to the public except to those persons rendering security maintenance services at those places or premises. In other words, what it's saying there is that if you've got a big manufacturing environment, that manufacturing environment must close down. However, only, and it's defined in that, and the persons rendering the security and maintenance service, those places can be stayed on. All persons will be deemed essential services. All persons performing essentials, obtaining essential goods, or seeking medical must be subject to screening of a COVID-19 by an enforcement officer, may be subjected to screening of a COVID-19 by an enforcement officer. If they stop you, they may do that and subject you to that. So let's quickly talk about transportation, because that's another thing we need to get around. So there it is. All services, including passenger rail, etc., are suspended, barring, let's go, private motor vehicles for the purposes of rendering essential services. But more importantly, guys, it's the part that leads on there, provided that such vehicle carries no more than 50% of the licensed capacity of in all directions in respect of hiring conditions and limited the exposure to COVID-19. Then, where a person is rendering essential services unable to travel, in other words, if your people are unable to travel because there is no public service for that specific thing, you may make arrangements, but again, that 50% of the licensed capacity of the vehicle cannot be exceeded, and the limit of the exposures to persons of COVID-19 are adhered to. So just a couple of other things, guys, take note of. Loss or damage in the regulations, they've added no person is entitled to compensation for any loss or damage arising out of any bona fide action or omission by an enforcement officer under these regulations. I'm just putting it in, guys. I'm not going to unpack that. There it is. You read it. Take it what you want. Offences and penalties. For the purpose of this chapter, any person who convenes regulation 11B1 and 11.4, you can go and see what it is. We're in here. That means is if you choose that if you're not in essential services, etc., shall be guilty of an offence and a conviction liable to be a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months, or both such fine and imprisonment. So there, guys, just read it. So let's talk about the annexure or the permit that everybody's talking about. So what we did is, guys, in the regulations are clear. There's an annexure C that outlines of how the permit must look, right? And we at PRB and Iopsa, we have put together a document which you can download. And simply just a Word document, extract it out and put it on your letterheads and edit it. Feel free to edit to what it is, but I would suggest you stick it as close as possible to what Annexure C is so you don't confuse anybody out there. So yeah, just quickly, just to have a look, I just gave you a quick extract of it. So let's just quickly work through it. You simply just copy this and put it on your letterhead. Just remove that up at the top there. It's just for your own benefits. This first part, guys, please, must be filled out by that person who is the head of the institution. In other words, the owner and the CEO. He has the physical address of the institute, right? And hereby certifies that ABC, full names, identity number, registration number, metro, forms part of the plumbing institute defined above. So in other words, defined in your institute, and is duly designated in performing essential plumbing services as determined in sub-regulation 2 of the regulations and in the function of the essential plumbing. And the head of the institute signs that, stamp the guys, and then you give it to all your employees who need the specific thing. We have added additional things. So let's just quickly, I'll come back to that, guy. The permit should be clearly appeared on a business letterhead. The head of the institute, as defined in the Gazette regulations, must sign the document. So they can hang you if you put something on and you try to be clever, and they might be able to, they can say, well, no, you're not an essential, you signed the thing. The person to whom the permit is issued must at all times carry a form of identification to be presented with the permit. If no identification, they'll just turn them around and send them back. So guys, carry that identification, and that identification can be your ID, your driver's license, the PRLB registration card, a Metro plumbing registration card, number, whatever it is. We have made place. We have changed this slightly, so you can put your numbers on here if you do have them. The Institute of Plumbing, a membership number, and down at the bottom it says, it clearly points out where the officer that is looking at can contact us to verify the person that is there. So we just try to throw up as much as we can. Yeah, guys, just to have a look if you want the website or where to go, but just go and look at Iopsa's website, look at the COVID page, or join any of the PRLB and social feeds, and you'll get those downloads there. So please, guys, go and do it. Go and find that information, download it. And I say, guys, use it as you wish. Don't use it. It's up to you guys. But I would suggest you just make sure that you follow the format as much as possible as defined in Annex C. Okay, so let's so now, of course, what's going to happen? We're going to get opportunistics. There's a challenge of possible individuals using the excuse of being an essential service provider to break the lockdown provisions. Of course, professional plumbers have a moral and ethical responsibility, guys, to act in a good faith. This is what we've been working towards, guys. You guys have a moral and ethical responsibility at all times to strictly adhere to the rules and regulations of the lockdown. Remember the curve, guys? Having a word on your plumbing vehicle, having a word on your vehicle, such as plumbers, as we heard on the Twitter feeds, does not proclaim you to be a plumber, and neither does it proclaim you to be an essential service provider. Not only is this totally irresponsible, guys, but prohibited by law in terms of the amended regulations. We do have a wish to stress, and this is very important, guys, that in no way is PRLB or Iopsa advocating that a person not registered with the PRLB or not having a membership with the Iopsa are prohibited from proclaiming that they are plumbers. I repeat that. We wish to stress that in no way Iopsa or PRLB are advocating that a person not registered with the PRLB or not having a membership with the Iopsa are prohibited from proclaiming they are plumbers. The decision still lies with the institute and the head of the institute. So you sign that document, guys. The difference is if you're registered with the PRLB or have a membership with Iopsa, it gives us the opportunity as a third party to validate validate your claim that you are an essential service provider in the event that the verification is required by somebody. If you're stopped, you can give it to them. If they don't believe you, you can point it out that you are PRLB registered in Iopsa, and they can verify it with that body, and we will follow it up with that specific thing. We will verify it. Support services. So guys, it's great to have us emergency vehicles on, but if they do not have a support services, i.e. the merchants and whatever it is, it's going to be pretty difficult for us to work out there. Now, let's be clear, guys. This is a support service, aka the merchants. It's not the manufacturers. It's not manufacturers. They are not allowed to be open. So PRLB are fully aware that plumbers carry out the essentials service. They need to obtain the relevant materials and provisions, need to perform these services. The regulations are clear that production, manufacturing, supply, logistics, transport, critical maintenance, and repair in relation to rendering of the essential services, including components, equipment, form part of the category of essential services, guys. So it is there. The supply chain is there. However, within reason, again, I go back to the regulation which I put up there. You need to put that essential space in your stores. You need to put up the necessary process. You as plumbers need to be proactive with regards to engaging when you're buying material. And then again, the retail stores, selling of essential is prohibited from selling any other goods. In other words, if somebody walks in there and they want to buy a whole bathroom suite and whatever it is, that is prohibited. So the responsibility again lies on the institution and the head of that institution, very similar to the plumbers, to make that necessary call. However, merchant suppliers that have a clear and defined relationship with PRLB and or membership with the officer will allow us to give them the additional support and third-party verification in the event that verification is required that you are a valid essential service provider. So what we've done in the interim between Iopsa and PRLB, we'll be engaging with, we're trying to work out which suppliers are available. It's a bit over the place, guys, but the best is just phone up your local supplier and establish it. We will try and establish it further and put up a communication, who is available, what are their necessary conditions behind that specific. So keep in contact with our communications, right? But whatever they do, guys, just make sure that they provide the necessary social contact or the distances related to that. And also, guys, if you're tuning in from a merchant or whatever it is, the same permit applies. You can use it, guys. Some of the stuff is not relevant. Ignore it, delete it, but I suggest you use the same format of that specific thing, the same format to give to your employees you wish to come in. So at the time of writing this communication, we were seeing strong verified communications. As I said to you in the beginning, we wanted to verify it before anything. From that point of view, and I remember, guys, we were looking at the regulations and we were getting strong verified communications that essential services are required to apply for the company's intellectual property at the BIS portal and obtain a certificate from the Commission. It is noted that this is and has not been included as a part of the regulations as defined above. In other words, the regulations, it's not been written in that you have to register it, that it was, and again, it doesn't negate the fact that you have to. It just says, hey guys, maybe the regulation hasn't caught up with putting this in. In the meantime, guys, we know that it's extremely difficult to register on there. It's becoming, the thing keeps crashing and whatever it is. So in the meantime, go forward with what's defined in the Act, but try and just register yourself on the specific BIS portal just to get that certificate. Also, I'd just like to point out that that is our recommendation, or the way that we would indicate it, because everybody's flooding, the thing keeps crashing. We can't wait for that. We need to move forward in a responsible manner. But again, it's up to you as an institute or the head of the institute to make that specific call. But we will back you up if you make the right call and you're in the right position to do that specific thing. Also very important to note is, guys, I have been on the site myself. I had a look at it. One of the things is that you have to have your company registration number ready with you. And hopefully it's up to date and valid. If you don't, you ain't going to get onto that specific thing because your company had to be registered with SIPC. Right. So Iopsa's offices will be closed. However, all staffs have been working remotely, and it's business as usual. Yes, we are having some challenges with the phones. Please, guys, I know I must actually just remove that specific one. I just want to just check there. There is another communication. Just leave this one out, because what is happening is that the phones that we have are bouncing. The problem is they're all calling the one phone. Our remote phones are not handling the bouncings. In other words, when you call one phone, it will bounce to another line and whatever it is because of the remote. Just visit the PRLB's website for the relevant individual cell number. So I do apologize for that specific one. And then we urge you all to join our Iopsa social media page. That's the quickest way to get the updates, etc., or any other further updates. Just go to Iopsa or PRLB's website for that. Guys, COCs, electronic COCs, paper-based COCs, for obvious reasons, are not going to be available because we can't get it through the supply chain, down to the supply chain through our delivery services. But electronic COCs are still valid. We are just putting some, we're just updating a bit of the communication of how to log your COCs, and we'll be running most likely another webinar for that. Guys, CPD, it's time that you catch up with some CPD points, guys, or even better, enrich yourselves while you got this opportunity of doing it. You know what? It sucks. I understand it, guys, but let's try and make the most of it. We will be putting on more CPD programs or more webinars so we can pass on information to you. We're going to try and make this 21 days as bearable as possible if we can. help you out wherever we can with information, with some entertainment. Well, I don't know about entertainment, but education from that point. And we're working hard at it. We're trying to get our presenters together. We're trying to get some more content quickly pulled together so you guys can log in at any particular, well, just watch out for the communications. Check on the channels for that, guys. And then lastly, guys, I know this is a cliche, with great powers come great responsibility. As professional plumbers, we must continue playing our part in protecting the health and safety of our nation, but it's imperative that it is that in this time of our country's need, we must all work together in a responsible and proactive manner. I know it's easier said, guys, and it's easier said than done, guys. It's a tough time, but we need to work through it. And I wish you luck. We're going to try and help you out as best we can in the sense of providing information to you. But guys, just be strong and be plumber proud. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.